The first time she said it, I thought she was joking. I had laughed and said, if we were the same age, I'd visit you every night. She looked straight into my eyes, smiled gently, and replied, does age really matter? At that moment, the room felt strangely quiet. What started as a harmless joke suddenly felt like something deeper, something that made me question everything I thought I understood about people, kindness, and the invisible walls we build between each other. Before we dive into this story, take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Stories like this remind us how powerful simple kindness can be. Welcome to Your Channel Name, where real-life moments inspire us to become better humans. Now let me tell you what happened. It was a cold Thursday evening in early November when I first met her. I had just moved into a small apartment building in a quiet neighborhood outside Denver. Life had been complicated lately. My job was stressful, my relationship had recently ended, and I mostly kept to myself. The building was older but comfortable. Wooden stairs creaked when you walked on them, and the hallway always smelled faintly of coffee and cinnamon. I was carrying 2 heavy grocery bags up the stairs when I heard a soft voice behind me. Careful there, young man. Those bags look like they might win the fight. I turned around and saw her standing on the landing. She looked to be in her early 50s, maybe a little older. She had kind eyes, long brown hair pulled into a loose ponytail, and a warm smile that instantly made the hallway feel brighter. I laughed and said, you might be right. I underestimated the power of frozen pizzas. She chuckled. Need a hand? I shook my head. I got it. But thank you. She nodded and extended her hand. I'm Claire. Apartment 2B. Daniel. 3A. That was our first meeting. Simple. Ordinary. But sometimes the smallest moments end up changing everything. Over the next few weeks, we started running into each other more often. Sometimes in the hallway. Sometimes outside by the mailboxes. Sometimes at the small cafe on the corner where both of us apparently loved their terrible but comforting coffee. Claire had this way about her. She remembered little things. If I mentioned having a tough day at work, the next time she saw me she'd ask, did that meeting go better today? If she saw me carrying groceries again, she'd say, still battling those frozen pizzas? She made people feel noticed. And honestly, that was something I didn't realize I had been missing. One evening, as I was unlocking my apartment door, she called out from the stairs. Daniel, wait. She walked over holding a small container. I made too much soup, she said. Tomato basil. Thought you might want some. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want it, but because kindness like that felt unfamiliar. You don't have to do that, I said. I know, she replied with a smile. That's why it's called kindness. I took the container. And that simple bowl of soup somehow tasted better than anything I'd eaten in months. Over time, we started talking more. Not long conversations, just small ones. But meaningful. I learned Claire worked part-time at a community library. She loved books, gardening, and old movies. She also had a son who lived across the country in New York. What about you? She asked one afternoon as we sat outside near the building's small garden. What do you love doing? I thought about it for a moment. I used to paint, I said. Haven't done it in years. Why not? I shrugged. Life got busy, I guess. She looked at me thoughtfully. Life gets busy for everyone, she said. But we shouldn't forget the things that make us feel alive. It was such a simple sentence. But it stayed with me. A few days later, I knocked on her door. When she opened it, I held up a small canvas and a cheap set of paints. You were right, I said. I'm starting again. Her face lit up like it was Christmas morning. That makes me happier than you know. And from that moment on, something changed. We became friends. Not the kind of friendship people usually expect between a 30-year-old guy and a woman 20 years older. But a real one. We talked about life. About mistakes. About dreams we thought were too late to chase. Claire had a way of listening that made you feel safe. Like you didn't have to pretend to be stronger than you were. One night, after a long day at work, I knocked on her door again. She opened it holding a small vase of white flowers. "Look what I found at the farmer's market," she said proudly. "They're beautiful," I replied. "Come in. I just made tea." We sat in her cozy living room. Soft music played in the background, and the place smelled like lavender. We started joking about random things. Movies. Awkward dates. Embarrassing stories. At one point she teased me about how often I visited. "Careful," she laughed. "People might start talking." Without thinking, I grinned and said, "If we were the same age, I'd visit you every night." It was meant to be a harmless joke. But she didn't laugh. Instead, she looked at me calmly and said something that caught me completely off guard. "Does age really matter?" For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Not because I thought she meant anything romantic. But because her question felt bigger than that. It felt like she was challenging a rule we all follow without thinking. Why do we decide who we can care about based on numbers? Why do we assume kindness and connection have limits? She saw the confusion on my face and smiled gently. "I'm not saying what you think," she said softly. "I just mean, people forget that friendship, kindness, and connection aren't supposed to have rules." Her words sat quietly in the room. And suddenly I realized something. This woman had done more for me in 2 months than most people had done in years. She had reminded me how to paint again. She had shown me how small acts, like soup or remembering someone's bad day, could make life feel lighter. She had given me kindness when I didn't even know I needed it. That winter became one of the most meaningful seasons of my life. Claire and I continued our routine. Tea on some evenings. Conversations in the hallway. Sharing books. Laughing about random things. She never tried to change my life with big speeches. She just showed up with kindness. And somehow, that was enough. A few months later, something unexpected happened. Claire told me she was moving. Her son had asked her to come live closer to him in New York. "I think it's time," she said. I felt a strange heaviness in my chest. "I'll miss you," I admitted. "I'll miss you too," she said. "But you'll be okay." "How do you know?" She smiled. "Because you've already started becoming the person you forgot you were." On her last day in the building, she knocked on my door. In her hands was a small wrapped box. "For you." Inside was a paintbrush. Not fancy. Just simple. But engraved on the handle were 3 words. "Kindness changes lives." I looked up at her. "Thank you, for everything." She hugged me warmly. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Pass it on." It's been 3 years since Claire moved away. We still talk sometimes. But what she gave me stayed long after she left. I started painting again. I volunteer at a local community center now. And I try to remember what she taught me, that kindness doesn't need permission. It doesn't care about age, background, or circumstances. Sometimes the person who changes your life isn't someone dramatic or famous. Sometimes it's just someone who offers you soup, listens to your story, and reminds you who you are. So if there's one thing I hope you take from this story, it's this. Kindness is powerful. A small gesture. A warm conversation. A simple act of care. You never know how deeply it might touch someone's life. So today, tomorrow, and every day after that, look for small chances to be kind. Because just like Claire taught me, kindness has no age. And it might just change someone's life forever. Red Heart.